What are the Nightcrawlers in FEAR Perseus mandate? How do they fit into the story, and what is their objective? The Nightcrawlers are the main enemies in Perseus mandate. They do battle with almost any other opponent, which includes Delta Force, Replica Soldiers, the FEAR team, and even ATC guards. Later in the game, they are seen to also have a small encounter with Alma's apparition, but of course, they stand no chance against her. Unlike the Replica Soldiers in previous FEAR games, the Nightcrawlers only have about 4 classes within their ranks. We have the Light Soldiers, the Heavy, the Elite, and the last one is the Commander. While the Nightcrawlers use communication between their groups, they also have similar tactical movements to the Replica Soldiers. Throughout the story, the player will encounter mostly the Nightcrawler Light Soldiers. These units all share the same voice. This could mean they might all be clones. They could also be masking their voice to hide their identity, or maybe the developer did not want to use different voice actors. The Nightcrawler commander is the leader of the Nightcrawler group. His entire mercenary team were sent in to steal Armacham's genetic research. Their main focus was getting Alma Wade's DNA, but this is not their only goal, which is later revealed in the game. Before we continue with the Nightcrawlers, I have to point out one important and mysterious character in the FEAR story, the Senator. This person seems to have access to many secret projects and military operations. He does have a voice conversation with Genevieve Aristide during the intro and ending of the first game. When they lost control of Paxton Fettel and the Replica Soldiers, they planned to blow up the Origin facility, but this in turn ended up freeing Alma, which is seen during the ending. Genevieve Aristide was the president of ATC. When the Origin situation was resolved, Genevieve mentions that the first prototype was a complete success. She is referring to Point Man. The Senator then responds with, "But so much for discretion." So after the first FEAR game, the Senator is not heard from until Perseus mandate. The Senator is heard on a private call during the game's introduction to Perseus mandate. He hired Gavin Morrison to oversee the mission and report back to him. The Nightcrawlers are working for the Senator.
What do you want me to do, sir?
What you're good at, Morrison.
You may not like the consequences.
Perseus is mine. Get it back. I don't care what you have to do.
Aside from the intro, we get a glimpse of the Nightcrawler commander when he and Gavin Morrison interrogate a man named Bristol. This man worked for ATC. Morrison was trying to get some encryption codes from him. He claims that Bristol ran the Perseus project for Harlan Wade. Morrison says they're going to take Synchronicity with or without him, but this was merely an event, so there's nothing to steal. Bristol then says to recreate the Synchronicity event, you will need Alma, but she's in a place they will never find. He is then eliminated by the commander. So now we have something else to go over. What is Synchronicity? Well, it was the name given to a specific event in the story of FEAR, but this took place when Paxton Fettel was a boy. To sum up the story very quickly, Alma Wade was one of Harlan Wade's daughters. She was born with incredible psychic powers. She was experimented on throughout her childhood by her own father, who worked for Armachem Technology Corporation. At a young age, she was impregnated with prototypes created by her own DNA, and this was mixed with other researchers, including her father. Their goal was to create a psychic commander that would control Replica Soldiers. This battalion of soldiers were all clones. Now, the first child Alma had was at the age of 15. She gave birth to Point Man, who we see in the first game. Now, he had no psychic abilities to control the Replica Soldiers, but he did possess incredibly fast reflexes and would excel in military training. He would later join the FEAR team. Alma's second child was Paxton Fettel. He did have the psychic abilities ATC was looking for. ATC was hoping that Alma's children would inherit her psychic powers, but out of the 2 prototypes, only Paxton Fettel was seen as the proper candidate to control the Replica Soldiers, so he was placed into active training around this project. And this is where the Synchronicity event comes into the story. It's a term given to when Alma Wade makes a telepathic connection with Paxton Fettel. While we don't see this in FEAR, its two expansions, or in FEAR 2, this scene is shown in the post-credits of FEAR 3. It shows Paxton Fettel when he was around 10 years old. He makes contact with Alma, and she makes him aware of what Harlan Wade and ATC did to her. Paxton goes through a psychic seizure and eliminates the guards coming into his room. The connection he makes with Alma the first time is so intense that Paxton's psychic powers become uncontrollable. As the guards move in to tranquilize Paxton, they are taken down one by one. While this was seen as the first Synchronicity event, there was a second time this happened. Many years later, when Paxton Fettel is an adult, he has full control of the replica soldiers through his psychic abilities. This is around the time Alma makes contact with Fettel again. She shows him the intense pain she went through as a child, when her own father conducted many experiments on her, and even took away her babies. Paxton feels the raw edge of Alma's pain. She wants revenge, and Paxton is going to help her. Now that he has a full army to control, he uses them to find the location of Alma. He wants to set her free. While it's not clearly explained how Fettel is able to dissolve into ashes in the first FEAR game, it's possible the second Synchronicity event could have given him this ability through the connection he made with Alma. Even though he is alive during the first game, it's hard to pinpoint how he has this ability, or perhaps what we see is just an image projected through his psychic powers. During FEAR 3, some past conversations and memories are displayed. It mentions how Harlan Wade favored Paxton Fettel over Point Man. The psychic abilities that Paxton had at an early age is what Harlan wanted to focus on. Paxton was already showing potential in being the psychic commander for the replica army. He pushed Paxton during various testing procedures. He wanted Paxton to excel, since Point Man was a disappointment in Harlan's eyes. Now, while Point Man did go through some testing himself, he was still seen as a failed prototype when compared to Paxton Fettel.
That's much better. Better than I hoped.
So, going back to the Nightcrawler classes, we saw the light soldiers, which mostly carry the VES advanced rifle, which comes with a red scope. This new rifle will have better armor penetration, provide more accuracy when shooting, and it has a larger zoom due to its built-in scope. So the Nightcrawlers who use this weapon will do more damage when compared to the replica soldiers that use the standard G2A2 assault rifle. You will later make contact with a Nightcrawler heavy class. They have a different design, which includes a change to their armor, helmet, and attachments. Just like the light soldiers, they can use the same weapons as them, but they have access to the HV penetrator, laser carbine, and repeating cannons. And here we have the Nightcrawler elites. They serve as squad leaders. They are seen as the veteran members within this mercenary force. What separates them from the previous two classes is they are fewer in numbers, but they make up for that with incredible combat skills, armor, and weapons. Their outfits are similar to the other classes, except they don't wear any helmets. Instead, they wear specialized goggles. You get a glimpse of a Nightcrawler elite very early into the game in the sewers. It throws a knife at a door in front of you, then it quickly jumps through a hole above to escape. If you enter this area backwards, this cinematic will not happen, so it's meant to be a surprise when you walk forward, but you have to turn around fast just to see it. When you battle against your first Nightcrawler elite, you will quickly see that they are very formidable opponents. They have increased reflexes and agility, able to move as fast as the Point Man and Sergeant. The constant use of slow-mo is advised when fighting against Nightcrawler elites. We can also see that the elites are able to climb walls, jump off and launch frag grenades, or dodge and roll during combat, which makes them even more dangerous. Like other Nightcrawlers, the elites are also shown to taunt the player with vocal messages during combat. They will use a variety of weapons like shotguns, VES advanced rifles, grenade launchers, the lightning arc weapon, MP50s, carbine lasers, and turrets. When you encounter two elites at the same time, the battle can be extremely hard. Their enhanced reflexes and agility makes them unpredictable. Next we have the Nightcrawler Commander, who is seen alongside Gavin Morrison when they interrogate Bristol for the encryption codes. When they don't get the codes, the Commander eliminates Bristol. They notice the camera in the room is active, and he destroys it. The next time we see the Commander, he is talking to Morrison about their mission. While he's supposed to work alongside him, Morrison threatens the Commander. This seems to cause some tension between them. Then, when Morrison walks away, the Commander tells his elites, after they complete their task, eliminate Morrison. A team of Nightcrawlers are then sent out towards their next mission. Sometime during the story, the player would find a recorded message from the Nightcrawlers. They mention the Senator is becoming more trouble than he's worth. This mercenary team was possibly going to consider changing their plans. Despite this minor problem, they continue with their mission. One thing that I wanted to point out was a scripted event during the mission called Base Camp. You can find it during Interval 5. It's the place with the trains inside the warehouse and some cars at the back. When you step on an area within this radius, the game will activate the scripted event. It happens really fast, and all you see is a shadow from this angle. Now you can get a better angle near the cars at the back, but it involves jumping on certain parts of the train. From this area, you can get a better look at what passed by the window. If you're able to zoom in, you can see it's just a Nightcrawler elite. But it's not using a proper jumping animation, it's just their standing pose going up in the sky, which I thought was kind of weird. So back to the story. The Nightcrawlers end up betraying Morrison and confine him to a cage. The sergeant finds him later on, and they release Morrison in exchange for his assistance. He reveals the Nightcrawlers are trying to get Alma's DNA. They were supposed to hand it over to Morrison, but they betrayed him and left him behind. Morrison does lead the sergeant to a secret underground tunnel, where they run into an apparition of Paxton Fettel. Morrison and the sergeant would see a hallucination of Alma, but shortly after, Morrison is eliminated when an armored truck is launched into the air and crushes him.
She had been dead for 3 years when she first came for me. She destroyed them with the raw edge of her pain.
Give it back.
Tell me you saw that.
The Nightcrawler commander is seen near the end of the game extracting Alma's DNA. He quickly runs off and the sergeant gives chase. The commander does escape, but the two of them would meet up later on. The commander is then shown briefly fighting against replica forces during his escape. Now, during your battle against the commander, he would show similar abilities as the elites. For example, having increased reflexes to dodge, bouncing off walls to throw 2 grenades, and using a variety of heavy weapons. The only difference is this battle is fought during 2 sequences. The commander will use available cover in the battlefield and jump up to higher ledges to gain an advantage point. Even though the commander has a different skin and rank, he pretty much functions the same as an elite. The second encounter has him using an MP50 repeating cannon. Other Nightcrawlers will come to his aid, but the sergeant would eventually defeat him and retrieve Alma's DNA. But the story does not end here. The post-credits ending sequence shows one Nightcrawler elite meeting up with the senator. We hear the senator ask, "Losses?" and the Nightcrawler elite responds with, "Acceptable." This could mean the Nightcrawler forces are even bigger than what we saw in the game. Despite how many of them were eliminated in the story, those losses were worth completing the mission. While the player reclaimed Alma Wade's DNA, other Nightcrawler forces were sent out to retrieve Paxton Fettel's DNA. This is what the senator gets a hold of. A message from Captain Rains during the game does imply the Nightcrawlers are not just a small group of mercenaries, but in fact a freestanding army. They had files on the entire FEAR team and other people. so they had connections from someone who was able to get a hold of this information. Now, it's hard to say just how far up the political ladder this goes. All we know is the senator would use the Nightcrawlers for special missions. So that covers the story on the Nightcrawlers in FEAR Perseus Mandate. Out of all the FEAR games, this enemy is my favorite, so I wanted to cover their story and other elements of each member. If you want to see the full story of Alma Wade, then I did a video for that character already a long time ago, so I will leave a link to it. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching. My name is Carlos, or Acid Glow, and I'll see you in the next video.
I'm gonna take you a piece at a time.